morning. Hello, world, and welcome to this week's Empower Hour, which is Empower Employees Weekly live series where we highlight game changers in the employment space. And Empower Employee, if you've never heard about us, which you have by now, but just in case, we provide sourcing and corporate education and technology solutions for companies who want to hire and retain veterans and military spouses. So really excited about this week's Empower Hour. I have some people that are near and dear to my heart that I want to introduce to all of you, and I'll let them talk about themselves a little bit more in depth because there's so many to be here with us today. So let's start with Althea Hooks, who is has been a owner of 5 businesses and 2 are accounting firms. She's a military spouse and of a retired veteran who served 23 years. I'll let you tell the rest of her story when she gets here. We have Sara Clifton, another military spouse who started her career with Intuit, and I can't wait for Sara to share her story. And then Tessa Eubanks has 10 years of experience in operational leadership, and she's a military spouse who comes from a background in management and customer service. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Intuit pack to my stage today. Well, hello. How are y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Great. I'm good. Just really excited to kind of talk about what's going on. I know I just did kind of your introduction, but I would really like to take a minute and have you all spend time to tell people, who you are and share your story. And whoever wants to go first is kind of fine by me. But I just kind of want to highlight, who you are, where you came from, your background, those kinds of things.
Okay, I'll go first.
I was like, oh, okay, someone go.
Hi, my name is Althea Hooks. I have been a military spouse. He was serving for 23 years, but with guard time, he had 33 years. And I I got my accounting degree early in life, and I was introduced to QuickBooks. I started with desktop. And then they came with online. I was back when they had the CDs. I don't know if people remember.
Yeah.
So Intuit has came a long way, and I've kind of been with them along the path. And so I came with Intuit. It's been going on 3 years now. I love it here. I love the flexibility. Being a military spouse, you move around. And you have to quit your job and move to the next duty station. But with Intuit, you don't have to do that. You can take your laptop with you, just let them know where you're going. And I had to do a transition. I was in Hawaii and I transitioned to Georgia, to my home where I am right now. And then I had to go back to Hawaii. I was with Intuit. So I flew out on a Saturday, I was back at work on Monday. So the flexibility for military spouses is awesome because we have to change our lives constantly. And then the flexibility, if you got kids, you can be able to work from home and then still do your job. I have the 2 businesses, accounting firms in 2 different states, one in Hawaii, and then I call one in the States. Hawaii is the state, but you kind of, military calls it kind of overseas. And so I'm able to do the same thing over here with Intuit, but also to share my experience with the ones at Intuit, and you kind of get to build a relationship with them. So that is one of the biggest things is seeing all the live bookkeeping clients that we have be successful in their business and be a part of it here at Intuit. So if you're a military spouse, I highly suggest that you do get a job with Intuit because remote is like big for military spouses. My son's actually active duty right now. I'd be glad when Intuit get overseas to like Germany because that'd be great too. As far as recruiting, I think that maybe in the future they can go on the military bases and help with the recruiting or even take one of us that's a military spouse. That's a suggestion that I think would be great for military spouses.
Yeah. Well, I think that is a great story, and I'm going to pop to Sara, and then Tessa, I'll let you go because I really want the world to hear about Sara's experience. Like, it's fun to see, QuickBooks Live Lead on the bottom of Sara's screen, and I want to hear about how she got there. So Sara, will you tell everybody kind of your story and how you ended up at Intuit and what kind of growth you've had? You've been there and how long you've been there. I think it's been a year, but that's your story to tell.
Sure. So I have been with my active duty spouse for almost our 18th anniversary. He has been active duty for 20 years now. Our latest PCS was in 2020 in the height of the pandemic. I had previously in 2019 just gone back to work, was thrilled. It was, I had been out of the workforce for actually 14 years doing a lot of volunteer work and things like that. But I had just gotten back into the workforce. The pandemic hit, and then we got you're moving in the middle of the pandemic. And so we moved and the kids were in remote schooling, and I saw the opportunity. It said from Intuit that said, we're launching an Intuit, it's now called Intuit Academy bookkeeping course. At that point, it was Intuit Certified Bookkeeping Professional certification. And it was, when I saw it was targeted for everybody but military spouses especially. And it said, and then you can apply to work at Intuit as an Intuit QuickBooks Live Bookkeeper. And it's fabulous because you get the remote and the job opportunity, the flexibility. My kids were still at home, and that's what I needed. I had the urge to go back to work. I was so ready. My kids were older. I had a teenager at that point. And I needed to get back to work. I had that urge to get back in the workforce. I was so ready. And so I saw the opportunity and I dove in. Both feet first. I finished that course so fast. And that's actually when I met Lindsay in one of the groups. And a 4-month course I got through in a shockingly short time. And I will say then I went back and did it again because I hadn't done a course that fast in years. But it brought back all the bookkeeping and accounting stuff I had done in college and had been volunteering for over the years. So then, come to find out, I was the first military spouse who achieved the certification. And then I applied and was the first military spouse with the certification to be hired at Intuit, which was very exciting to find out later. So I was hired as a QuickBooks Live bookkeeper. And then I met some fabulous people who are on my team and who mentored me along the way. And in the past year, right at my 1-year point, I was promoted to a QuickBooks Live Lead. So, and when I say I took that and ran with it, I took that and ran with it. And I had the help of you, Lindsay. You helped me take my resume and get that in order because, again, I had been out of the workforce for so long, and you got me on that side of it, and the Intuit course got me to go, and I am loving it. And I love that this job started out with just a job and it's becoming a career because my husband made the decision this year to retire. He retires in 6 months. And I know wherever we end up going, I will be taking this career with me.
I love that for you. Like, there's so many things to unpack there that I want to celebrate, but I want to give Tessa a chance to share her experience, and then we'll move on to a couple more questions that kind of tie into your story. So go ahead, Tessa, tell the world who you are and what you do and your role at Intuit.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. So my name's Tessa Eubanks. I am a recruiter with QuickBooks Live. I actually started with Intuit with TurboTax, was supposed to be seasonal. And then they asked me to stay on, and then I moved over to the QuickBooks team, which I love. I love the QuickBooks team so much. I am also a military spouse. I'm a little bit newer of a military spouse. So my husband joined the Navy last year, and I knew I was ready I had always worked retail management. So I was in stores in person, and I knew I was going to need a role where I could be remote. And I had already been looking at some roles in kind of like HR and recruiting anyway. I had heard great things about Intuit. I had a friend who kind of connected me with the application on where to go for a recruiting role with the company, interviewed, and so then whenever we got our placement and knew we were moving to San Diego. I'm in San Diego now, but we moved from Texas. I had just started. I had been with the company for a few months. And kind of like Althea said, I was able to just pick up, drive to California, take, I think, one day and a weekend off and open my laptop and was ready to work on Monday. So yeah, I've been with Intuit a year and a half now. And with the QuickBooks team, probably about 9 months, something like that. But anyway, I love it. I love the team. And to Sarah's point, I'm always pushing the Intuit Academy and that certification for people who are looking for a career change, looking to move to a remote role. If you've had any type of experience with QuickBooks Online at all, getting that certification with now it's on the Intuit Academy. We're very excited that it's now being offered through the Intuit Academy. That's brand new. So if you can get that certification and you have any experience with QuickBooks Online, I'm always preaching that to other, military spouses or people who are looking to move to remote.
Well, that's awesome. So as far as, Intuit, I do want to talk about Intuit Academy because we've done a couple of lives about the program, in the past, but want to make sure new people get an opportunity to hear about it. Could you share a little bit more about Intuit Academy and if there's a cost affiliated with it, or there are scholarships where people can go to take the training and so forth, Tessa?
Yeah, so the Intuit Academy is a free resource, actually. I can't really speak for, there's trainings on there for TurboTax as well. I can't speak on that as much, but for QuickBooks, it's a free resource. I think now they've changed it to a 40-hour course, and you can work in it your own time frame. So I literally had a candidate complete it within 2 weeks recently. So it's possible to do it quickly if you have the time to do so. Some people it can take a month or two. But yeah, it's a fully free resource, and I think that's major. I don't know a lot of companies that offer the training you would need to interview for a role that they offer like that. So we're really, really excited about it. No cost.
And then as far as, we're going to jump and stay on recruiting opportunities here for a second, and then I promise we'll finish the rest of the notes that we have. But can we talk about some of the requirements? I just got a question, are there remote opportunities? So what are the requirements for your current roles that you're hiring for? Share a little bit about that in hours and that kind of information.
Yeah, so the requirements are really that you've had a little experience with QuickBooks Online. We do require that you have the QuickBooks Online Pro Advisor certificate, which is also free. It's 8 training modules and a test. You don't necessarily need that before you speak to a recruiter or apply. That's something we can kind of direct you to when you speak to a recruiter. And then we do require 3 years of bookkeeping experience or the certificate with the Intuit Academy in order to move to the next step in the interview process. The interview is digital. We also require that you have hardwired internet, and your internet speed will need to be a certain speed. We do that during the onboarding process. And it's a fully remote role.
And when you talk about experience, I think we should touch on this. Strategic volunteer experience to me actually counts. So like if you were at your church and you were doing bookkeeping, or you did maybe FRG bookkeeping, Boy Scouts, any clubs, does Intuit count that as legitimate, bookkeeping experience? If you were part of a spouse's club and you were their bookkeeper, to me that would count. But I would be really curious on, your position as a recruiter, if that would substitute.
Sure. Technically, the question in the phone screen is, do you have 3 years of paid bookkeeping experience? Now, I will say, if you speak to a recruiter and they ask that question and your experience has mostly been, volunteer with the church, Boy Scouts, like you said, I would explain that to a recruiter. For me personally, I usually ask a few additional questions, and if I feel like you've done in-depth bookkeeping, like full charge bookkeeping, and, asking a few additional questions, I do count that. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So if we could go back to Sara, could you tell, everyone kind of what made you decide to join Intuit and what your current job entails?
So when I saw the support they were giving based on the, if you got the certificate, it helped pass for that 3 years experience, because I hadn't at that point been able to get 3 years experience, but I actually, Tessa, finished the course in 2 weeks as well. And it was right when the course was first released. And doing the course, it refreshed and taught me new things, but also refreshed things that I had already done. I just hadn't had an opportunity at that point due to the irregular military schedule we had dealt with. So when I saw that they were taking that and offering it as an awesome opportunity for anybody, but in particular at that point, I saw it targeted to military spouses, I was like, this is perfect. The flexibility, especially in the first year, my husband was not always home, and it would be, okay, I have to go pick up my kids at school. And the support I received from my team, they were like, okay, cool, log out, go grab your kid and come back. And if I couldn't for some reason come back, the support and the family like backing that Intuit has given me and they offered from the beginning is amazing. And that's what I needed at the time. And that was what I needed to jump in and be able to go back to full-time employment. I needed to know that I had that at my back and to support that, and to know that, you know, in a year or two when we move again, I can, just like you both explained, like be able to pack up my equipment, get on the road, and then just hook back up and be able to log back into work. Like that's very important as a military spouse.
Yeah. And can you share, Althea? Did I say that right? Althea?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. What a day in the life is for you. You know, you get up, you make breakfast, you do whatever you do, you kick your kids out of the house or your husband or dogs or whatever, and then you log in. And then what does that look like for the rest of your day?
So I get up, I work a 40-hour week now. I started at I think I was working like 32 hours. And I get up and I get dressed and I walk from one end of my house to the other. Basically, it's very cool to just come sit at my desk. I have an actual office here, and I run all of my stuff. I have my computers all the way across here, but I log in. I say good morning to my team, and I always have an inspirational quote for them. And most of the time, I run pretty much almost 7 appointments a day. So I'm very busy throughout the day, just taking appointments and making sure books are closed, and speaking with we call them SMBs, but clients, and just building relationships, which is important so that I can get the documents and everything that I need. I leave at 5:30 my time, which is EST, log out, cut my computer off, and that's pretty much my day. Monday through Friday, I work, and I'm able to take 15-minute breaks. We have a 30-minute lunch, but I have 3 dogs here. My kids are grown. And so I'm able to take them out. I'm able to get up and go get me something to eat or a bowl of something, and still, come back and do what I need to do. So the flexibility is awesome for me. I don't have to get out and be amongst people in presence. And when I made my transition from active duty to retired, I was able to be in the hotel, hardwired, and still work. So it's still just an awesome thing when it comes to our transition, because most of the time when we get to the next duty station, especially if we travel far, we don't get housing. And so we're able to be in the hotel with permission. Make sure you check with your manager. I'm on an awesome team, very supportive. Also, when you have doctor's appointment, just let your managers know, and you're able to go to those. You're not, Intuit gives great benefits. You have your health benefits, your sick time, your supplemental time since the pandemic. So you're able to still be paid, and you got to be off if you're having those things. You're still able, just that flexibility. I love it.
Yeah, that was kind of leading into my next question that I was going to ask Tessa is like, hey, we've talked about this amazing training program you all have. We talked about the flexibility. We talked about hours. We talked about career development. But let's talk about some of the other benefits that are available to Intuit employees. And I figured Tessa might be perfect to answer that.
Sure. So we have full benefits, medical, dental, vision. Even if you just work 20 hours a week, you are eligible for our benefits. We have a 401k with employer match. We have sick time. We give you your birthday as a PTO day. We have an employee stock purchase plan option. There are some product discounts as well. And then, I think I've covered everything. Full medical, dental, vision, which I guess as a military spouse, you may not even need that part. But
Yeah,
did I cover everything, you guys? I'm like trying to think now.
Yeah, it sounds like we covered some good things there. And then let's see, Sara, what is the best piece of advice you could give as a live lead for those who are for those people who are interested? What's a great piece of advice?
Always learn. That was one thing is in the beginning, I was eager to learn. I did not have as much experience as everybody else. I had experience, but my first manager told me, she said, what I love about you is that if you need help, you always ask for help. And if you make a mistake, that it's a teaching moment, you are willing to, you sit there, you take notes, and I don't see you make the mistake a second time. So always be willing to have questions and always be willing to learn more, because every day, even now as a lead, I'll be like, oh, I didn't know that. And I'm always willing to learn more and take notes and be ready to go. And that's how I feel like I'm always ready to go. And I'm always willing. I want to keep improving myself so I can keep improving every day and teach others.
That's amazing. And so anybody who wants to answer this next question, just jump in and take it. So what is another piece of advice that you would give anyone who is, struggling in their job search?
If you come to Intuit, there is so much to learn. There is so many free courses that you can learn. They have offered. From graphic design to whatever, if you want to learn something to the side, and it's free. So you need to take advantage of that when you get here, especially with you having background experience. Your team, they know a lot of things that you may not know. You got CPAs here, and you're able to actually learn from your peers. You're able to, if you get some client and you are getting stuck, you always have people on the team that probably going to know the answer, and you're able to learn that and implement that in your practice. And I like the fact that you're able to have your own practice along with working with Intuit. They do not keep you from having your own business, and that's great. So my biggest advice is, if you're already a bookkeeper, come over here just to learn new things to implement in your own practice, because I've learned so much just being here and just talking with others. So
That's
just
amazing.
continue learning.
Okay, so let's talk about process, and we'll give this to Tessa. So, hi, I'm a military spouse. I saw the link today on the live. I clicked the link. I filled out the application. I went and completed my certification. My resume is matched perfectly. Just kidding. My resume is customized. I've done STAR interview prep, situation, task, action, result. I am ready to go. How do I get in contact with Intuit? Who do I reach out to? Do I wait for them to reach out to me? Tessa, what does that look like from a process perspective? What did I say wrong?
Yeah. So if you've already applied, so you would go to the Intuit careers page to apply. Once you've applied, you will get assigned to a recruiter within a few days. Typically, it kind of depends on the season and how many people are applying. Sometimes it can take a week or so, but yeah, so you would get attached to a recruiter. Now they also send out what's called a candidate portal invitation email. That's brand new. That's something new we're trying. You would, sign up with the candidate portal, and that will kind of let you follow your process in the interview process. So you can upload your resume there. You can go ahead and make an appointment with your recruiter if they haven't reached out already. Sometimes there's a little bit of a lag. And I don't think it'll give you your recruiter's information, but you can immediately access their calendar to make yourself an appointment. And then at that point, as a recruiter, we see you, you're already on our calendar. We see you, we have your contact. And then you just wait to speak to a recruiter, and then we can kind of guide you on what's next. If you've got all the certifications you need, you would go straight into the digital interview, which that would have been my tip. I think this new age we're in, interviews look a little different than they used to. So I would say my tip would be get really familiar with interviewing over the computer. In some cases, in our case, you're recording yourself, so that can be a little awkward. I think you should practice that. That can be a little bit, different for people, uncomfortable. So, and I think the video part sometimes is where people kind of don't do as well in the interview. But if you practice that, the more practice you get, the better. But yeah, so if you got all your certifications, everything, we'd send you straight to, if you qualify, we'd send you straight to the interview, and you can interview as soon as you're ready. If you're not to that point yet, the recruiter can kind of guide you on what's next, what the next step should be or what you need to get to that point.
Yeah. So I saw a question in the chat that's relevant. So I'll stop and just address the question. It just says for me, LinkedIn users, I can't see their name. I'm so sorry. So if that's you, just tell me who you are. But the question is, how long does the whole process take overall from start to finish?
It sort of depends on the candidate. Once you apply, typically you hear from a recruiter within a few days. And if you can get an appointment with your recruiter within a week or two, it just depends on the season. Like right now, my calendar's been full all day, every day. So new candidates, it's usually 4 or 5 days before they can get an appointment. Sometimes if you email your recruiter, they can make it happen. If you're outside of their, we're working with different time zones. So I'm Pacific time. Sometimes my East Coast people want an earlier appointment. I can make that happen for them. Once they speak to a recruiter, if they're ready to go, they can interview literally that day or the next day. And then the hiring managers typically take 3 to 5 business days to get back. So you're looking at maybe a full 2 weeks altogether.
And that's assuming that you have your certifications.
Yeah, assuming you're good. Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. Well, very last question, and this is open to all three of you. It's a really hard one, and I decided to ask a new question this time. So the holiday season is among us. What is your favorite holiday tradition, if you have one, and why?
Ooh, I can answer this one.
Yeah.
We started this almost 10 years ago, I think. We found a recipe for these Grinch cookies. It's a cake mix cookie. Lindsay, I've shown you this before.
Yeah.
You take a vanilla cake mix and you add in green food coloring and you roll it in powdered sugar and stick a little heart candy on it. But we've done it for almost 10 years now, and we watch The Grinch every year. So I literally have a picture of us, my husband and myself and the 2 kids. And even though some years he has not been here for Christmas, we have managed to do it. Sometimes we've done it early. Sometimes I think there's been at least 1 year we haven't had green food coloring, but it is our favorite tradition every year.
Anybody else want to share?
Mine is with the grandbabies, this Elf on the Shelf. Like, it's been really fun. This time with my 4-year-old granddaughter here with me. My daughter's doing it. So every day I get to hear what Elsa did. And so that has been so fun. And so she's with her dad till Friday. And so my daughter came last night and she had to write the letter that she was going to remain in the vase and that she took her present to school. So it's just been fun how her little 2-year sister touches the F and she said it loses its power. So she calls me, I have to give the power back. So it's kind of been just fun just doing that with her.
I don't have any kids, so for me, it's very basic. We go get a live tree each year, and then that way, like my husband currently, he's on an underway. Um, we did it before he left. That way, we can already, it's something we could do before or after, or it's something we can do each year. And one day we'll get a fake tree, but I like the smell of the real tree. It kind of smells like Christmas to me. Because sometimes I think it's hard as a military spouse if your spouse isn't there to get in the spirit of the holiday and all of that kind of stuff. So I like having a real tree. So that's probably our one tradition.
Yeah, and I have teenagers now. So like, back in the day, the fun thing was like bake cookies and look at Christmas lights and like watch Christmas movies. And this year it's just kind of like, okay, it's Christmas. Like I kind of feel the same way. Hawaii is a little hard to like feel like you're in the Christmas spirit because there's not really like a temperature change I mean, there is, but it's like a whopping, 70 degrees and we're all freezing here and dying because it's, 70. So no snow, really just kind of like hard to adapt. So I'm looking forward to traveling home to see family and being like legitimately cold. So, but yeah, cookies and stuff. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching. I'm going to close out our Intuit live feed. I hope that everyone has a good holiday if you're spending it with your family or whatever you're doing. Oh, Jennifer says we're going on a cruise instead of Christmas. Take me with you. But please join us after the new year for our next lineup of Empower Hour. I'm expecting to see some really new names out there. I think Intuit's going to be back. I'm hoping to see Align HCM will be here. And then I know Caruso Homes will be joining us, all different industries out there for the world. So thank you so much for watching and tuning in. If you have any questions, don't forget to drop them in the chat or email us at, admin@empoweremployee.us, and have a great week.